everyone, I am Charlotte and welcome to the Seafood Boil virtual cooking class. Joining me today, as always, is the talented chef Scott Tompkins. Thank you for joining.
Always so many compliments. I always feel so warm and fuzzy here when I'm with you in this space. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this class. Yes,
the Seafood Boil class. I'm actually excited for this class too. We are doing we're calling it a seafood boil class, not just a crawfish boil class. I wanted to point that out because we are doing two wonderful seafood boils. We're going to do a Louisiana style crawfish boil, and then we are going to do a New England style clam bake, which is one of my personal favorites. So we called it the seafood boil. So much crustaceans, so much shellfish. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm very excited about this. In addition to our two wonderful seafood boils, we are actually going to make an aioli. And I think that it's a wonderful recipe and tool to keep in your toolbox. It's a classic thing. And we also thought that maybe you needed to see something, my hands do something other than, standing over a pot.
Yeah,
so,
and watch the blender also do something.
Very, very excited. Full disclosure, everyone. Before we get started, I am not a huge crawfish person. Are you a crawfish person, Tompkins?
This is bittersweet for me because I'm excited because the sweet part is I'm actually going to see a smaller, more weeknight style crawfish boil we're going to do. But I'm upset because, growing up, I didn't get to be a part of those giant parties where they came over and you did the huge crawfish boil in the backyard and there's food on the table and it's kind of spilled it out and it's all over the place. I never got to really do that. As an adult, I did, but I didn't get to grow up with that. So it's that's the bitter part. Sweet part is we're doing it now.
It's a lot of fun. I'm so glad that you're actually here to do this. So this is a lot of fun. Both of these recipes, and I'm glad that you said that whole thing about the, growing up with all the, spill the food out on the table. Everybody enjoys it. What I think is so great about both of these dishes is that they are steeped in that sort of tradition and friends and family. And part of a seafood boil is that people gather and you drink a beer and you drink a glass of wine and you're with your friends and you're outside, right? And you're enjoying each other. And it's typically in the summer months. So I think crawfish boil is between January and July, peak season being March, April, May, and then a New England style clam bake. So typically they would do them, they're on the beach, right? So you're outside, they dig a big pit in the sand, heat up some rocks, throw the rocks in there, cover it with some seaweed, throw in some clams, lobsters, crabs, whatever, cover it with a burlap sack and let it steam. And so again, outside, at the beach, outdoors with your friends and family. And we're gonna take these things inside and make them a little bit smaller so they're not, you don't need to do 100 pounds of crawfish or clams. You could do it, just a small amount. Good note to that, if you are going to scale a recipe, so 10 pounds of crawfish would yield about 1.5 pounds of picked tail meat. So if you are doing a couple of people or a few more people than 4, you can sort of scale that way if that's helpful.
How much can you eat? An all-you-can-eat clam bake that's the style that I think people want to go to, where there's just endless amounts of crawfish and seafood and you just eat until you have to drink and then you drink some more and then you eat some more.
That's how I
picture it in my mind.
I don't know if I could do a 10-pound thing. I don't know if I have the
You get your exercise peeling all those crawfish. There's
I mean,
no doubt
you
about
definitely work those fine motor skills. So let's get to our Louisiana crawfish boil. So again, like I said, not a huge crawfish person. Do you call them crawfish or crawdads?
Well, we did some fun,
we did do some fun.
Some digging, some names. So there's, I think most people are used to saying crawfish because that's what's on Louisiana hot sauce, it's all these things. But depending on where you grew up, they're also known as crawdads, crayfish, mud bugs, ditch bugs, freshwater lobsters, mountain lobsters, and I think my favorite one of all of them is yabbies, which I believe is more Australian, but still, yabby's a great name.
I do know they are very popular in France and New Zealand. I read that.
Yeah,
I read that. Okay, so to get started with our Louisiana crawfish boil, in this pot right here in front of me, I have a couple of quarts of water and some beer, and I've gone ahead and added in here some of the Louisiana crawfish boil concentrate, and some of the actual dried powder seasoning, and some onions and some lemons. So something interesting that I found out, like doing my research. So even, like I said, not a crawfish person, but I am smart enough to do my research. Creating a crawfish boil, like people that are truly passionate from that area, like it's very personal, like the way, Texans are about chili, or the way a person is with their coffee. So people like a specific seasoning. Some people do no seasoning. It's very interesting, right? It blew my mind. So a gentleman that works at HEB, he actually doesn't season at all during the boiling process. He actually seasons dry afterwards. So I thought that was very interesting.
So it's really, so he probably likes a more pungent kind of, cook them a little bit,
right,
and then season them afterwards. They're real heavy. So also, just a quick note, because Rob has set up the Skycam. You saw those beautiful pots. So every single pot that's on the stove, you can buy at HEB.
Yes. Okay, guys. So in this pot, like I said, I've got some of my seasoning, I've got some water, I've got a little bit of beer, whatever beer you guys want to use, and I've added in my potatoes and my corn. So I added cold things to a hot pot. So we need to bring that up to a boil, back up to a boil, and I'm on medium-high heat. We're going to cover this lid, cover this with a lid, and we're going to let this cook for about 10 minutes before we bring in our crawfish. So while that's happening, in this pot right here, this is a 5-quart Dutch oven, we are going to add in a little bit of wine. So we're going to start our New England style clam bake, right? So medium-high heat.
Would you give that the Scott pour of wine? I heard you say a little bit, but I just want to know, would you give it the Scott pour of wine?
It's like half for the pot, half for me, right? So
That's
I'm actually
right.
using the Santola Vinho Verde, one of my personal favorites. Vinho Verde is a beautiful wine. It's a Portuguese wine. It's very clean. It's very crisp. It has a light effervescence to it, so it's really nice for a hot day. So if you were doing this, on a Sunday afternoon, it's a little bit for the glass, a little bit for the pot. But
Chef,
big
we got
fan.
a quick question for you. I love the Vinho Verde. Susie Lee, love the name Susie Lee, the way she spells it. Does the liquid amount change if we're going to cut the recipe to like a quarter?
Would that be for, yes, on both accounts, right? So depending on the size of your pot and how much you're cooking. So that is a very great question. So for the crawfish, you want to make sure everything can be submerged, right? And that includes your potatoes, corn, crawfish, sausage, everything, right? And then for the New England style clam bake, what we want is we want a little bit of liquid in the bottom, and we're going to create this really neat platform or like base with our onions, sausage, and corn, and then we're going to put the seafood on top of that. So we're going to have a steaming effect. So you don't want to submerge, but that's a great question.
I got another great question. Sandy also wants to know, she bought 3 different ones due to availability. I just don't know which crab boil seasoning to use. She's referring to crab boil seasoning. And like you said earlier, I think everybody's different on, because each one has different amount of spice.
Yes.
Will you just give her a little of your insight on?
So that's a great question, right? And so that depends on like personal preference, right? And so when we're doing this in small batches, like this is a great place to test. You can always go lighter in your boiling liquid, and then later, after we're done, we've let everything sit and marinate, you can go back and season with dry seasoning, if that makes sense, right? Also know that if you're gonna do the boil in batches, the last batch you do is gonna be super salty, because all of that salt's gonna concentrate as the water evaporates out.
Yeah, Sandy, that's a great question. I think they can all be a little different. I think it just depends on your taste.
Yeah.
Most of the Louisiana and the Zatarans are a little similar. Obviously, they're going to have different spices. I don't want to call them the same, but they're, just try one and then go, all right.
I don't actually have a favorite.
You can also make the seasoning from scratch,
you
right?
can.
So you could just go
and I did write down those ingredients. I think there's like 13 different kind of spices. So it's like coriander and celery seed, mustard, a whole bunch of things. And I did come across a couple of recipes on the line. But we have various different recipes. And the back of the box, like these guys, they're so smart. The back of the box is pretty good about telling you the ratio of seasoning or concentrate to the liquid, right? Which is pretty fair.
There you go. I like it. Good stuff.
All right, so we're getting ready for our clams over here. Our wine is probably boiling a little bit. I'm going to take these onions over there.
A little mirepoix, kind of, sort of. You got a little lemon in there. Throw it up, but you got the onions, all flavor builders.
We'll do some lemon.
Building flavor. That's what even if you didn't grow up, say like me, you didn't grow up doing all this stuff, like the clam bakes and all this stuff, it's really interesting because you are building this court bouillon, this really flavorful liquid with which anything would taste good poached in it. So whether it's crawfish, or you go, hey, what other fish, or shrimp, or octopus, or whatever it is, there's a million different ways to use that flavorful liquid.
It's very classic, that court bouillon. Say that again for me, Tompkins.
Court bouillon?
Thank you.
It's the same. It's regional dialect. It's fine. You were there.
We're going to add a little bit of garlic in here. Yes, so like, it's like white wine. This, this bottle has a crab on it. It was made for shellfish, but that lemon, that citrus, that acid is really, really good. And the items that we're going to throw in here are really kind of like, shellfish is almost sweet, right? Like it has like a kind of like a sweet note to it. I'm going to add in some bay leaf, which is really typical of a clam bake. And I'm going to throw in some thyme just because we have it and I like it. And it does add a really nice flavor. So we did our onion, some thyme, a little bit of salt in here. I'm going to give this a little stir.
So good base going down.
I'm going to throw in a couple of potatoes right now. Ooh, slippery.
So obviously when it comes to when you're supposed to add all these different things, I think people get a little bit confused as to be like, well, how do I know when to add what? And I think obviously with your crawfish and your shrimp, you'll add those at the last minute.
Absolutely.
Your potatoes and those things, sausage and corn can go in obviously first because they'll take a little longer.
Yep, you want those items to go in first because it takes longer to cook. But don't worry about overcooking your crawfish or overcooking your shrimp or overcooking anything, because what you're going to do is, as these things, especially this crawfish boil, we're going to add the crawfish, add the sausage. We're going to let it boil for a few moments. We're going to turn it off and we're going to let it sit, right? And this is one of those things that, like, as I was asking people, like, what are the most important steps in doing a crawfish boil? It's this point of letting it sit, right, with the fire off. And you let all of these spices and flavors sort of marry with, like, the shells from the shrimp and the crawfish and the corn and all of these different flavors, and they all just sort of marry together. And the only thing I can compare it to really is, like, when you let a roast rest, or like a piece of fish or something, a protein after it comes out of the oven or out of the pan, and everything has the opportunity to reabsorb and relax, right? And that's how you get that spicy goodness, like, inside, right?
And you're basically making it's a really flavorful stock is what you've got there.
Exactly.
Really well-seasoned, heavily seasoned
right?
stock.
Okay, so our potatoes are going in here. We're going to let this go also for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to add in the rest of our shellfish. Man.
Shellfish?
Shellfish.
Don't be shellfish.
Meanwhile, let me grab our crawfish, and I want to talk a little bit about crawfish. I've got some guys right here.
Or our crawdads.
Our crawdads. Okay, so couple of notes. Again, we said 10 pounds of fresh live crawfish will yield about 1.5 pounds of tail meat. Don't worry. We're adding a bunch of delicious things to that pot. So you still have the corn, the potatoes, and that sausage. So as you can see, I've got a clean bowl right here. I've got a wet towel, and then I have a bag of ice. So crawfish don't like to be wet, right? They like to be damp, and they like to be cold, but not...
so not fully submerged in waters where you want
right? And right now they're kind of asleep, right? The cold sort of makes them tired. And I'm going to show you guys what we're...
Just having a little nap.
They're just having a little nap, right? Let's see here.
I think what you said is great about the adding, because if you live in a household where you're a split decision on, like, I don't like crawfish, but my husband likes crawfish, or vice versa, you can go, hey, add a bunch of the inclusions so that everybody can be happy and everybody gets what they need.
So what we're looking for in a crawfish, and these guys are kind of super cold, but you want a crawfish that is going to, they're going to wake up a little bit. You want them to come at you, right? You want them to come at you. You also want to make sure that you wash your crawfish. You don't need to submerge them in salt water. You don't need to, like, quote unquote, purge them, but they do need to be washed. So they do live in the mud. They do live in the grass. So you want to rinse them with cold water, fresh cold water, until the water comes clean. These guys are kind of cold. We're going to let them warm up.
Yeah, it's a great note because you don't want that gritty sandiness in your potato when you're taking a bite or your sauce.
Absolutely,
you want a nice, clean.
And then you also want to discard any dead ones. And you'll know that they're dead right away because they won't move at all, right?
They won't be ready to party. Crawfish like to party. They move
Crawfish
their
like
hands up
to
like
party,
they're at a concert.
And they
move
won't,
their hands up.
Yeah. They're starting to move around a little bit. They were cold in there. All right. So now we're gonna add the andouille sausage. This is something that I think is really interesting, right? So like seafood boils, like, you know, from Louisiana crawfish boils, right? So we have that definitely in Houston, all the way up to New England, where like with the clam bake or a Portuguese style, where they use linguiça sausage. There's like fundamentals that are always there, right? So there's the potato, the sausage, the corn, and then that liquid, right? And this flavorful liquid. I think it's really, even though they're different, they're still the same.
I love the Portuguese linguiça. It's so good.
It's so good, right? And it's hard to find. So
It is.
I went to school in Rhode
spice
Island,
blend.
and there's a really large Portuguese population up there, and so they would do like Portuguese style clam bakes, and they would use that linguiça and the vino verde, and that's where I picked that little.
So chef,
trick
doesn't
up.
matter the size, however big you want to cut your andouille or sausages.
go.
It's just whatever size you want to go, bite size
Yeah.
or just in bigger links.
So our crawfish are it absolutely
Slowly
doesn't
waking
matter.
up.
It absolutely doesn't matter, and you don't have to. If andouille is not your thing, don't use andouille. And if you want to use something a little bit different, there's no right or wrong answer. But typically or traditionally, it is andouille sausage. All right, so here are our guys. They're starting to wake up a little bit. I want to show you guys some really good fighting. Oh, they should look like they want to kill you, right? And if they're dead, they won't move at all. Like this guy, we're gonna get rid of him, right?
Maybe
Because crawfish,
that was
just like
Charlie. That's all right.
just like most like shellfish, like lobster, they're definitely best when cooked live. All right,
I like to name all my
no.
Yeah, I like to
No.
name them all. I went through them all, named them, put on a sheet of paper. It's like, just said, it's homage, like as you're cooking them,
Okay.
just to have the, you name them.
You're gonna
they were
name
alive.
them like this one's Bob. All right, so here is that liquid, and you can see it's definitely at a rolling boil. And now we are just gonna add in our crawfish. Let me see. These guys, I wanna make sure they're all.
Good to go.
You definitely don't wanna
Still
put in
sleepy.
crawfish that aren't alive. All right, here we go.
That water is a bubbling. There they go.
Throw these guys in there. Yeah, they're just asleep.
And you had a statistic earlier that I think was kind of interesting of how many hundreds of millions of crawfish are consumed or are raised. How many they do a season, like something in a season. It's like an incredible amount of crawfish.
I actually,
Hundreds of millions of crawfish get
millions, and most of them are grown in Louisiana on the
East
Mississippi.
Texas and Louisiana?
Yeah, and on the Mississippi River. All right, so now we're adding in our sausage. We're gonna give this guy a stir. Uh-oh.
everything
All right,
in.
guys.
So obviously we added a bunch of cold crawfish. They were sleeping. in the
Sleeping
fridge.
guys.
So we brought the temperature down. So we got to bring it back up to a boil.
All right, and I'm gonna grab some shrimp, and we're gonna throw a little shrimp in there. I promise, shrimp is not on the recipe, but you will make some friends if you add in some shrimp. Not everybody likes crawfish. You'll definitely make friends out of me. I'm here for the shrimp and not necessarily the crawfish. And I'm just
obviously-
using large Gulf shrimp.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you're using the large one. I
Yeah.
love the fact that these shells are on them because that's going to add to the flavor
For sure.
of the court bouillon. Obviously, you're making the stock. The shrimp shells have a lot of great flavor in them. There's obviously, you walk to any HEB seafood department has a lot of great. They have the Argentinian red. There's a lot of great Gulf shrimp. There's different sizes. So pretty much any one you'd want to use. But I do love the shell on for this because the flavor, and it gives you something to peel. Right? Everybody's peeling crawfish.
Yeah.
You're peeling your shrimp.
All right, I'm gonna add a little bit more liquid to this, and I'm actually gonna add that liquid in the form of a beer.
Where'd the rest of the beer go, chef?
Look over there.
Yeah,
All right.
I fell for that earlier.
All right, and we're just gonna bring this back to a boil for about 3 minutes, right? And then we're gonna turn this guy off, and again, we're gonna let everything sort of marry together.
Sandy's cooking along with you. She's having so much fun.
Oh my
Sandy, I
gosh,
love
Sandy,
this.
what are you cooking? Tell me, are you doing the crawfish boil?
Crawfish or the New England style clam bake? Crawfish
right.
with shrimp. There you go. She's got it.
Fantastic. All right, so bring this up to a boil, and we're gonna let it go for 3 minutes. Meanwhile, let's check on.
Clam
Okay,
bake.
so this is going really well. Let's look at our potatoes. They're getting soft. You can sort of pinch them. They are getting tender.
What heat are you over there, chef? About a
I'm
medium
about,
heat?
well, now I'm off. Medium high.
Medium high? Okay.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna grab some of our other seafood, and I want to talk about that briefly.
As you're doing that,
So-
the crawfish. So yeah, the heat, obviously, Sandy, we want to make sure you finish the same time here.
Yes.
Keep your heat adjusted the correct
For sure.
temperature.
Okay. So in front of me, I have the most beautiful platter of seafood. So for the New England style clam bake, like I said, typically little neck clams. If you can't find little neck clams, you can always use mussels. One of my personal favorites. I could eat mussels for days. That's probably the thing that I could eat pounds of. Right?
I like it.
A little neck clam, it's just a little gray, nondescript little clam. These are great for like linguine and clams. One of my personal favorites. They're about 1.5 inches. The bigger ones are going to be called cherry stones, and then the bigger ones, like the larger ones after that, are called quahogs. And those are really good for like stuffies, right? To like stuff them and bake them.
I love clams. Clams are great.
I'm a big fan. They have this like briny ocean flavor that I'm really into. If your clams are open a little bit, I'm trying to see if I can find an open one. To tell if they're alive, all you would do is just tap on them gently, and if they close up, great, they're ready to go. If they don't close up, toss them. Same with the mussels, right?
Yeah.
So like,
mussels have a mouth that opens, and as you tap it, it'll start to close on you.
we'll
They
tap
stay open.
him, and he closes up. Perfect, this guy is good to go. So you want to definitely make sure that you rinse your clams and your mussels. And then some of the mussels will have a little beard, like just a little like rough kind of guy on them. It's not really good eating. It's not going to hurt you if you do eat it, but it's just not that enjoyable. So you're just going to peel it off. No big deal, right? You just take a little towel.
I would say my favorite tip for cooking live seafood to anybody is cook it the same day you're going to buy it the same day you tend to cook it, because that way you'll run the less waste.
Really quickly. I definitely agree. And I always keep my seafood on ice in my refrigerator. Now, if you wanted to keep your crawfish, so say you wanted to buy your crawfish on a Friday for a Saturday, no big deal. If you're buying a big bushel, you can absolutely keep those guys in a cooler. Just make sure that they are not submerged in water or in ice that drains. They don't like to be wet for too long.
And they'll also drown if you got them soaked in water.
That's right, and they do like to breathe, so just crack your cooler, right? Okay, so we also have some lobster, which is very typical of that New England style. And then this is some Dungeness crab, and this is from my friend Katie, who is from Maryland. Now, typically in Maryland, they cook blue crab with beer and Old Bay, and then just throw those guys on a table with some newspaper. And there's a very specific way to pick a crab. But I could not find any blue crab, so this is a little homage to my friend Katie from Maryland. All right, so let's get this seafood into this pot.
So everything goes in all at once there?
Yep, but first, I forgot, y'all. I got
Obviously,
too
the
excited
Dungeness
about
crab
the
is
seafood.
ready to go already.
I'm gonna do a different sausage. I'm gonna do this smoked sausage.
That is actually one of my very favorite sausages. The H-E-B All Natural Smoked. It's just got a good smoke flavor,
Right?
good saltiness. There's nothing like too overpowering in it. You don't get a lot of any one spice.
I'm a fan. And depending on the size of your pot, you could like change you'll cut them smaller or bigger if you've got a lot of room. All right. So we've left those crawfish on for quite some time. Do they come back to a boil? Almost.
So how long do you want depending on the size of the crawfish, how long are you going to let your crawfish kind of boil there?
Again, like I said, all we're looking for is like bringing it up to a boil about 3 or 4 minutes, just to get that heat up, and then we're going to turn them off and let them sit.
So I'll just kind of cook in the liquids, soak in all that great
sure.
flavor.
All right, I'm going to put the corn in.
I like where all this is headed, which is
sausage.
right to the dinner table for food.
All right, so we're going to throw the sausage in with the potatoes. Yes, these are good.
Again, obviously the sausage is already fully cooked. We're just heating it through. It's gonna drain out some fat, give some good flavor to our
I'm going to do the corn
Maryland
in here.
crab boil.
So they're very similar, right? The two of them, with the exception of like the spice. So now I'm going to put a little bit more corn. I really like the corn.
If you have not tried, I will say this as a little plug for H-E-B sausages. If you have not tried our jalapeno sausage, it's really spicy.
Are you a fan?
And if you want to kind of, Texify or South Texify your New England style clam bake, you throw all that stuff in there, and I guarantee you that it will permeate. It's good stuff.
All right, here, let me take that towel off so y'all can see what's going on in there. All right, here's our Gulf shrimp. leaving the shell, the tails, everything on there, that flavor, all that stuff in those shells is going to flavor this broth. And we're actually going to use that broth to drizzle over our
this fish fumet, I'm telling you.
Right? Okay, so you can sort of see like the difference, right, in the two of them. The Louisiana crawfish is like completely submerged, right? Everything is completely submerged. Whereas the New England style it's steaming, right? So we've created that platform with all of that like delicious aromatics and the corn.
And obviously as those cook, they're going to release their juices in there, the mussels, the clams, all those unique flavors.
It's going to be so good. And then we'll throw that last little lobster tail on there.
Everybody's going to get along just fine.
Oh, it's going to be glorious. We're going to cover it. And we're going to let this cook, and I'm going to say like an indiscriminate amount of time, right? I'm going to put a little bit more wine in there just to make sure, because just a little bit more wine is okay.
Steam it up. Oh yeah, the aroma.
I'm just kidding. All right.
At this point, you should be able to put the lid on and then have a couple glasses of wine or beer yourself.
Yes, exactly.
And then move toward the organization of the dinner table accoutrement.
Okay, so we're boiling, right? We brought it back up to a boil. I'm going to turn this guy off. Perfect. And while this is just sitting here and hanging out, we're going to start our clarified butter, so our Tarragon butter, and we're going to start our aioli, all right?
Love it,
okay,
love it.
I turned the wrong one off. I'm telling you, I don't know how long I've worked here, and I still can't figure out what knob goes to what burner.
Sandy said I picked up some jalapeno sausage too. Sandy, I knew I liked you from the moment you jumped in chat. I knew it. I knew we had a kinship. I knew it's there.
All right, really quickly, we're going to start with a little bit of garlic, and I'm going to throw it in this pot. Chopped garlic.
Chop the garlic. Is it almost time to make the aioli?
It is. Are you excited?
Aioli. I love a good aioli. I think you know how I feel about aioli.
How did you describe aioli earlier? What
so
was
if
it?
mayonnaise, which is basically the kind of where it comes from. The aioli would be the mayonnaise is there's nothing wrong with mayonnaise. We're not going to get mad at mayonnaise. Nothing wrong with mayonnaise, but aioli would be the smarter, more successful, better looking cousin, male or female, to the mayonnaise.
So basically, aioli is related to a mayonnaise. It is a just more refined, sophisticated version.
It's got garlic, it's got the mustard, and again, nothing against good old-fashioned mayonnaise. It's good in everything. It's a fantastic thing. But then you're just taking that mayonnaise and you're just sending it to finishing school. You know what I mean?
There
like it's
go.
That's just the way you're doing it.
So aioli has it's a little more sophisticated, all right? Definitely still an emulsion. All right, I'm going to take some of this garlic. I'm going to save some of it for our aioli. And the rest of it is going in this pot right here.
What's that going to be, Chef?
Glad you asked. This is going to be our butter, our Tarragon butter to drizzle over that New England style.
Drizzle it over.
Right?
Or use it to dip your bread in.
You know, bathe in it, brush your teeth with it.
I see you're using 8 ounces of European-style butter. That's a good choice.
I am. The recipe calls for 4 ounces, but come on. It's butter.
Yeah, why would you ever... When it comes to butter, why would you ever follow the recipe? Unless it comes to baking. And then
is it like, it's one of those things that more is more? Okay, here we go.
More is always more.
We're just going to melt this. All right, I have a question for you, Chef, and it's just a personal question.
Sure.
Do you drawn butter? Do you clarify?
You know, being a person that did not grow up in the Northeast, I do not care about the clarified or drawn butter. I like just straight up butter in any form. If it's melted, I'm good to go. I honestly, though, I think I prefer just good old melted butter because I like some of that, some of the milk fat adds a little more flavor. And if you burn it, like you said earlier, a little brown butter won't hurt as well.
For sure.
But not that I'm hating on drawn butter. I think drawn butter's got its place.
I feel like don't make it harder than it needs to be,
Yeah.
Like,
Don't create more work for yourself.
Okay, so for the aioli, we're really, it's super simple, right? Originally in the old days, they would crush that garlic on a mortar and pestle, and then they would whip in those egg yolks, and then slowly drizzle in and emulsify that oil. I do not have the arm strength to whipped cream or make aioli. And we live in the day of modern conveniences.
So you're not looking to join any arm wrestling clubs or
Nope.
anything like that? Because if
Nope.
you do emulsify your own aioli, you could definitely look into arm wrestling clubs near
Nope.
you.
I am going to use the blender, and you don't have to have a fancy Vitamix blender. You can use any blender you have. It'll work just fine, right? This one has actually seen, I think,
Better days.
better days. But
We
that's a
did solve the
testament to
mystery
the
earlier as
quality
to
of the
why front
product,
it's
right?
cracked. We found out why the front of the blender is cracked. Because Charlotte Tender likes to tap the
I
front of the blender.
do. I do this to
to
get
get
this
the,
so that I could pour.
Mystery solved. I can cancel
The
the private
great
detectives.
Sherlock Holmes.
The cameras everywhere trying to figure out who broke the Vitamix
broke
thing.
it?
Now we know.
It was me. I did it.
I've got closure. That's all I
So
wanted.
the aioli actually has 3 emulsifiers, right? So 3 stabilizers. We're using the garlic, which has an emulsifying property. We have the Dijon mustard also, and then of course we have the egg yolks. And you were telling me earlier, Tompkins, that egg yolks have
Enough
about a
lecithin
tablespoon.
to emulsify about
Yeah?
7-8 ounces of oil. So it's a
Okay.
good amount, so you can figure out from there how many you
Okay.
would need. Same thing with your hollandaise. We had a question earlier.
Yeah.
Can you explain, though, to those who don't know, the difference between European butter and American butter?
Yeah, that is a great question. So a European butter actually has a higher fat content than some of the American butters, meaning that there is still some more milk solids or water. They have a lower percentage of milk solids and water. Does that make sense? So I guess an American butter or a European butter is 84%, 83 to 84%.
Yeah, I think you're about right on.
Right,
82
and
to
then
84.
there is some like Amish butter, and I think there's a butter from
yeah.
Wisconsin because we talked about it one time that has a really high. But there's some American European style butters that have pretty high. That was a
It's
great
just
question.
it's just more fat, more flavor. Honestly, the American butter is totally fine, especially if you're going to infuse it and stuff. But I just love the European butter for things where I'm going to really want that butter flavor. Now, a lot
Right.
of times in baked goods, they say not to use European butter because the higher fat content can sometimes mess with the actual stuff. But it depends
Yeah.
on what you're baking, so you know.
Okay, so in our blender, we've got some garlic. We have the mustard. I'm putting in some lemon juice. And I added some lemon zest because I wanted more of that like lemony essence. Super easy.
I'm telling you, we're just adding more to the mayonnaise.
Right? We're
We're
layering flavors.
Not that
Burning
mayonnaise
butter.
wasn't good. She was fine as she was. It's little improvements, that's all.
Sizzle cam.
There you go.
All right. All right. We're just going to let that butter sit there and be happy, and we're going to come back to it in a minute. Not going to mess with it, just going to cover it.
It's kind of slowly cooking that garlic, taking that bite out of it.
Yes. All right. We are going to we're going to add in our egg yolks now. All right. Super easy. To take that guy out and I'll show you guys how to do it. Separate an egg yolk. I like to use room temp eggs. I feel like they emulsify better. You can get more air into them. I don't know if it's just something I've told myself or if it's actually true, but it's just something I like. We are using raw egg yolks, so there's enough acid in this mustard and in this lemon juice to kind of cook that yolk. But if, immunocompromised or if, raw egg freaks you out, we do sell pasteurized eggs.
We do.
All right, so we're going to do
Davidson
2.
pasteurized eggs if having raw egg and anything freaks you out.
Ooh, look how pretty this looks.
Good find.
Okay, throw those guys in there. How long
I
do you
love
think
raw
we've
eggs.
let that crab sit, or that crawfish?
How long have you let it sit? So far, Chef, by my watch, and I wasn't keeping score, maybe 6.5 minutes, maybe 6:40 if I'm going to be
That's good timing.
really
Tompkins.
guessing at it.
Okay, we're gonna let it sit for a little bit longer while we make this. All right, you ready? We're just
the
gonna
emulsion.
an emulsion. That was the most anticlimactic thing I've ever done ever.
Well, there's not a lot in there, so you don't really get to see. It's not 80 egg
You
yolks.
can't really
see it as
see
well.
what's happening.
But you will. You will soon.
Not a
all
lot.
moving.
It's not very exciting, but it will get exciting. And I'm actually gonna put the lid on. So at this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna drizzle in our oil. I'm actually gonna use 2 oils. The recipe calls for grapeseed oil, which is a great neutral oil. It's great for making salad dressings, aioli, mayonnaise, whatever. But I actually like olive oil. I like the flavor and the color that olive oil imparts. So I'm gonna do a half and half. And all we're gonna do is just slowly drizzle this in.
And you see it start splattering up on the side. It's happening. The emulsion is happening.
The emulsion.
It gets real thick. Now, adding the oil, you're going to also blend up you chop the garlic, but you're going to get the garlic a little bit finer because it is going to kind of grab the oil and it'll kind of puree it and process it a little further. And just from that cam, whoa, I think that cam, Rob, that was like the perfect angle. It was like right inside the little, you could see Charlotte, you had it right down the top.
Oh, really?
And you could just see it starting to thicken up as you were doing it. That was cool.
I mean, our camera people are pretty rad. All right, so now I'm gonna add in a little bit of olive oil. I'm using the unfiltered. I love the color of it, the Rustico. Again, just slowly drizzle. The aioli will tell you when it is done, right? It'll at some point just stop. It'll be so thick that it won't do anything anymore.
It's really good. And if this is the first time you're ever making it at home, it really does exactly what she said. It'll kind of get to a point where you're like, wow, this is not, it's not going to go anywhere because it'll just get so thick and creamy. Just a little at a time, just like that.
Do y'all just see the top of my head and not the aioli? Look at that.
The top of the head cam?
There it goes. There it goes. Look.
You'll see that little
vortex.
The vortex tighten up.
Tighten
and that's when
up.
you know you're getting to the. But see, it almost just kind of stops moving. It just kind of becomes.
Give it a little more speed and let it get the rest of that oil. Sometimes I've done it a million times, but I get really excited when it does a pretty thing.
Hey, an emulsion's not easy to do, but you have enough insurance.
There we go. See, it stopped.
The mustard egg yolk.
See, it's done. Okay, we turn it off and we let it go. Take it off. Now, at this point, you can season your aioli with anything you like, right? So if you wanted to do a roasted garlic, do the roasted garlic. If you wanted to add in some of the Old Bay, right? So like
some capers,
great opportunity for that. If you wanted to do some black pepper, a little more salt, like now's the time. I think personally it would be absolutely delicious with a little Old Bay and dip those potatoes in it. I think it'd be fantastic.
You may or may not know this. This is not meant to be a riddle, but where do they get the name Old Bay? Why do they? I'm imagining either it was an Old Bay where they kept a car, that kind of bay, or was it the kind of like, hey, there's this old East Coast bay where
salt.
these boats are. Where are we keeping this? That's just my.
What do I get if I know
curiosity.
the answer to this?
I don't know, but we have a fact checker who's from the East Coast who will fact check you.
So I read that Old Bay was named after a boat.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I read.
I'm too lazy to Google it, so I'm just going to call that a win. We're going to call that the answer.
Woo!
You know, Chesapeake Bay. There you go, Linda, Chesapeake Bay. I'm with you, Linda. I think it was named after a specific bay and not a boat. But maybe it was named after a boat. Ship line.
Look at
there we
this.
go.
A ship line. Okay. Oh my God.
So we were both. I was
okay.
way less.
I'm going to set this over here. That's
way
perfect.
Closer.
Let's come back to our guys over here. Okay, guys, look. This is wonderful.
The 1900s, ship line, Old Bay. There you go.
I'm going to turn this down. All right.
We have the best fact checkers in the business.
I'm telling you. Okay, so we can see in here, we've let this sit for a little while. We've let all the flavors come together. Now, if you were going to do multiple batches, right? If you were doing them on the stovetop, you could pull this out with a slotted spoon, a strainer, or even like the straining basket. So like this giant guy right here, like.
That's the one I think most people who are doing a crawfish boil are used to.
Okay, right?
The big basket.
Big basket, multiple batches. And again, if you're doing multiple batches on the stovetop, you could absolutely just pull this out, slotted spoon. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to drain this liquid out, and we are going to dry season these. So this is a trick that I learned through my research, through my crawfish studies. Again, not a huge crawfish person, but I wanted to make sure that I got the best information from the people that like it the best.
I will tell you this. Earlier today, if you can imagine, we were surrounded by all kinds of live and raw fish and shellfish, which had a certain smell to it, right? The live, like, smell of the ocean. Now that we've been cooking it, the smell in here, much more of a reminiscent of a clam bake or a delicious thing, and not so much of the briny ocean. So I'm appreciative, and I wish you guys could smell it because it smells really, really good.
All right, I'm going to do a quick cleanup over here because I'm going to show you guys something. I'm going to move some things around.
Morris said a couple of veggies that work well in the boil are artichokes and Brussels sprouts. Love
Absolutely.
That.
So I've seen that. I've seen people put celery in it, all sorts of crazy things. People like, it's a canvas, right?
I like, Morris, if you ever like fennel, and I'm just going to give a plug for fennel because I'm a big fan of fennel.
You
I
are.
think you should throw some fennel in
You
that
are.
and just see what it does because I bet it'd be delicious.
Okay, so
Chopped
in
fennel,
front
fresh
of
chopped
me,
fennel.
right here, I have a styrofoam cooler. You can get these at HEB, super great. You can also use a reusable cooler, a Cody, whatever you want. But this is something that I found was sort of synonymous across all of the people. They put them, or the people that I surveyed, people throw them in a cooler and they season them again. So there's a batch of crawfish in here that you can see that I just did.
Yep.
And they take some of that seasoning, right? So let's say that we'll use some of this Zatarans. I was using this one. This is a really great, this is the all-purpose Creole. It doesn't have as much sodium or salt as, say, the Zatarans. So if you were concerned about all of that salt and you didn't want it to be more salty, but you wanted that flavor, this is a good option.
I like those. They're good seasonings in general.
Right? Okay.
Those lines. So a little more seasoning on top. You're going to toss it in there.
Yes, I'm going to put some in here. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. And then the steam and all the juices come back together. All right, I'm going to grab these guys.
I'm telling you, this is my kind of food because it's the right level of salt at all times. This is the right level of seasoning. This is where you want that over-seasoned, like really, really good. I was meant for this kind of food.
So we're just going to take
That's what I've come to the
so
conclusion, Charlotte.
That's what we look at. Look how pretty that corn looks. Throw those guys in there.
So you can keep it hot because the stuff on the bottom may have been getting a little bit less hot. Throw the stuff on top. Bam. Look at that. That's a lot of food.
Ooh.
Linda, when are you going to be here? Hopefully you got the
right.
wine. We're going to fire up the margarita machine. It's going to be a whole thing.
I'm not strong enough to aggressively turn it, but you can use your tongs. Oh my gosh.
Those are your crawfish safe tongs, the safety tongs for the crawfish. I
know,
that.
that's a weird thing, right? I had this thing earlier where I thought it was more gentle to touch the live crawfish with the silicone tongs.
As
I'm lowering them into their
mind-blowingly hot water.
Steamy hot water. Okay, I'm gonna put the lid on, but I put the lid somewhere else. Does anyone, here we go.
And yes, if you're asking, you can find your crawfish safety tongs at your local HEB.
All right, we're gonna let these guys sit for a couple minutes and we're gonna finish up our other guy really quick. I'm gonna put this right over here. And again, all of the steam and the juices and everything is just gonna come together just like we were cooking a roast or a turkey or a piece of fish, all right?
Right, so you've added that seasoning on there and you're letting it kind of steep because there's a lot of moisture in there. It's just gonna kind of seep in. That smells really good too.
Oh man, okay, this is...
I can smell the wine.
Oh, it's so good. It smells like the ocean. It actually smells like the ocean, which is one of my favorite things in the world.
That pot is killing it. I'm telling you, that's like my favorite new pot.
This is the workhorse of this kitchen, this cast iron,
It's
Dutch oven.
$39 at HEB.
5-quart, you could do anything in it.
Come on.
Okay, I'm gonna get set up over here because I am gonna plate this really quickly.
I'm starving. You know what I had earlier during all this? We were doing a setup.
Dates.
I had some dates
Here,
and some
dates.
Starbursts. That's all I've had. So
I know. Okay.
this is killing me right now.
All right, here we go. This guy's
And yeah,
gonna
that's
be...
what I love about this meal. So normally, yeah, the recipe is calling you. This is like, for your own kind of backyard clam bake or the crawfish bake. But this is this is turning that special occasion into a weeknight meal.
I love this sound. Okay, so you can see that everything is done. You can see that our lobster is opaque. All of our clams are opened up, and you will just discard any mussels or clams that didn't do a thing, didn't open, because those are super dead. And what I like to do...
super dead. I like
super
that.
dead.
Not just regular dead.
They're
super
extra dead. I like to put everything sort of in its own little place. Like I like to do all the clams on one side.
Yeah, you kind of make it its own little buffet.
I do.
Give people a chance
Don't
to get
worry
what
if
they want.
Oh my gosh, this is.
What I love
so
about
good.
this, as you're doing this in the overhead cam, what I love is that all of that liquid from everything, crab, shrimp, lobster, mussels, the clam, all this liquor is gotten in the bottom of that pot with all the sausage and the corn and the onions and that's where just gold is.
Like I really want to, look, in your potatoes. Our potatoes are so good. I really want to dig my hands in there. Let's see. There's some of that sausage.
I want to grab a piece of bread you got over there and just dip it in there and just walk back over, but I'm not allowed to move.
I know. You can't.
I'm not allowed to move from this spot.
You can't move. You're mic'd up. All right.
the potatoes, the
corn. Okay, y'all. Has to be a better way here. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
There we go.
It's time for the spoon action. No more of this gentle tong stuff.
Oh my gosh, there's like these
Sandy was cooking with us, right? Sandy, how is yours looking? Is yours ready? Are we eating?
Are you letting those guys rest? Where are you with it?
She may have been resting.
Are you having a
I
drink?
have a feeling right now Sandy is taking a giant gulp of Chardonnay right now is what I'm picturing in my head. She's about to answer.
Okay.
But she's just taking a beat to just, everything's resting. She's having a cocktail. Maybe it's not a Chardonnay. Maybe it's maybe you like straight bourbon. I don't know. Who knows? It's Tuesday after all.
Sandy, what are I mean, tea is okay. Tea, we support the consumption of tea here.
I know this.
All right.
I feel like Morris is a bourbon and beer drinker. I feel like Morris. I may be completely off on that, but I feel like he's.
Was Morris our friend that knew about all of the?
He gave us the tip on the artichokes and the Brussels sprouts.
That's a good one. I read somewhere that cauliflower was a thing.
I would imagine that in this broth, either one you're going to do, you're just going to have a really savory, seasoned vegetable, whatever it is.
In rehearsal, when I practiced doing this, it took like 30 seconds and was beautiful.
This is good. This is real.
This is good. This is real life, y'all. Look how pretty
Used
and
to be a beer
vibrant
drinker.
that corn
The doctor
is.
has other ideas. Morris, respectable. I respect that.
What did he do? What did he say?
We'll go for the Topo Chico. Topo Chico.
Wait, Morris is having a Topo Chico?
Used to be a beer drinker. The doctor has other ideas, so I get that, Morris. Hey, you know what?
Morris, I am also a Topo Chico drinker. That sparkling water life.
Honestly, at this point, just drink the broth. You know what I mean? Like, there's enough flavor in that, but you don't need anything else.
It's so good, and it's so salty like the ocean. I love it. Okay.
Love that. Oh, that
I did it.
That piece of sausage right there.
Okay.
And then Dewey just kind of
Where'd it go?
trailing out. No, he was in. He was in.
Okay.
I was wanting to.
All right. We've got our butter over here. Now at this point.
There you go, Morris. Sun
butter.
tea with honey. I like that.
Okay. So here's our tarragon. Chopped tarragon, a big fan. I wasn't always a fan of tarragon, but I'm a fan now. It has a light, anise flavor to it, like a little bit of a licorice note, but not too overpowering. I just rough chopped this.
It goes great with seafood. There's something about it, you don't get that. It's not super anisey with seafood. It just gives it a really nice finish.
But I didn't want to cook in the butter because I didn't want it to lose that beautiful, vibrant green. So I'm just going to put it in there while the butter is still warm.
Terry said, I wonder if these broths would be good to use in making brodetto soup. Honestly, Terry, either of these broths would be good to make cioppino, just add some tomatoes to. The crawfish would be really spicy.
Guys.
The other one, absolutely. Brodetto, even just straight brodo, just a little Italian broth.
This broth is so good.
Strain
It
it
tastes
all
like
and then just drink
the
it, a little
ocean.
bit of crackers or,
Those lobster tails, get that.
Throw some Parmesan rinds in there. Make it more of a...
Some of our butter.
I love it.
Y'all.
And there you go, the butter over the top.
With that garlic.
And then the bread. Where's
I got
our
the bread. It's over there.
Screaming for the bread right now. You don't have to be shy, Charlotte. I'm not on a diet.
You're not going to be offended if I just aggressively throw it in there. Okay. Butter circus. We could also save some of the butter and serve it on the side, but come on, where's the fun in that?
But honestly, all I'm going to do is take a spoonful of that out, and I'm just going to jam my bread in the bottom of the bowl like you would mussels.
I'm going to grab a beautiful loaf of French. This is actually ciabatta, which is perfect for this. Come here, you.
Little bread.
And what I do,
perfect.
Just take it, and then you could either serve the bread whole, you could break the bread, shove it on the sides. I mean, there's no how should we serve this?
So I have to say, so looking at all this, right? So we did this. This is we're under an hour still.
Yeah, still
right?
under an
Class
hour.
started at 6. So
Oh my gosh.
you have made 2 separate meals on the table in 50 minutes, along with an aioli to go along with everything. And this is not just a meal. This is a meal fit for this is a king's spread of all the shellfish and everything else. And it's a weekday.
It's a weekday.
So it's you know what I mean? You can't, if you're starting off your week like this, it can only go down from here, right?
Oh man.
I mean up. I'm an optimist. Only up from here. Great way to start it out.
That is, it smells so good. That
It does smell
pot.
really good.
All right, now in this guy.
Now it's
okay.
the crawfish time, right?
Crawfish time. You could take like the barbecue butcher paper. I have some sitting right over here. I didn't I, Tompkins? I did. I put it down.
Underneath?
Stand by. This guy
Underneath?
right
There we go.
here.
There it is.
This stuff. Oh, I
Sounds
lost
like-
it. Like this stuff right here. This stuff is fantastic. You could take this, roll it out on your dining room table, and throw these crawfish on. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do a little plated guy but this stuff is amazing. This stuff is absolutely amazing. Use it all the time.
Chef, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you think you could throw me a piece of the andouille sausage from there, or too risky?
I mean, I could. I might get in trouble. I gotta know, chef.
If I have to dive for it, it's going to be a
All right.
no-go.
Woo, steam.
Oh, yeah. Look at this.
Look at these guys. Do you see all that and how beautiful that looks?
Are you going to do the full... I kind of want to see you dump this in there.
You want to? I'm afraid that if I do that, it's gonna be like
All over
crawfish
the place.
everywhere.
Again, get your crawfish safe tongs and deliver it a little more deliberately. There you go. Any basket will do, any plate will do at this point. It's like, come on.
I mean, like, I'm pretty sure the paper on the table. Man, look at that.
So this is like, put it on the table, put it in
All
front of
right.
everybody on your dining room table, turn
Let's
on
see.
Netflix, you know what I mean? And just like, make it like a crawfish Netflix.
Oh, I can't
kinda
do
night.
it. I'm gonna
Nope,
make a
too
mess.
many? It's
Too
probably,
many.
it'll be like when the
Too
milk
many.
gets frozen and you try to get that last little bit and it just goes.
Here we go. This is
Or maybe that's
perfect.
ice. I
I mean,
like
it's
to freeze
super
my milk.
easy. Super easy. And that's it.
And again, Morris, just like you said, the more stuff you put in there, the more gold you're going to get when you're putting it all on the table.
I'm gonna try that vegetable thing. Like I like the artichokes in there. That sounds fantastic.
Brussels sprouts, I totally get. 'cause
Are you
the
there for
Brussels
the-
sprouts are like, you get the Brussels sprouts, you get the cruciferous, you get that little kick of that,
Ooh-wee.
that goodness.
Y'all, look how pretty this looks.
I just used my 175-cent word for the day.
Cruciferous?
That was my one. That's probably for the week for me.
Okay. Look at that little guy. And that sausage.
Crawfish on the butcher paper, that's right, or in your favorite vessel. Boom.
Oh,
Maybe
you
just a
guys.
couple more shrimp on there for
I
me,
just
Chef, and
can't.
that's
You want
all
some more
that'll
shrimp?
be-
I was thinking about eating one. I'm gonna dip this in that aioli.
Yeah, I kind of want to dip some of that in the butter, too.
Okay. Boom. There it is. Doesn't get any better than that.
A great dish to share.
Boom.
Crawfish / clam Blake? No,
Blake?
Blake's on here.
Clam
Let's
Blake?
call it a bake.
New England style clam bake, which was fantastic. Louisiana crawfish boil, like super easy, guys. And again, it's about how you feel and what you want. There's no right or wrong way to do it. There's just a couple of fundamentals, right?
And take it
So,
from extravaganza, big event,
Right.
to a weeknight, little celebration.
layering in that flavor. So we're layering flavor and, a little bit of timing and everything comes out beautifully. So
Boom.
check out all those delicious,
Well
all
done,
that shellfish.
Chef.
Thank you so much. So to check out new classes, you can go to heb.com/classes. And to see some classes that you may have missed, you can always go to our YouTube channel and check out this class and any other classes that you may have missed. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Tuesday. I enjoyed having you guys here. Tompkins, thank you so much. And everybody,
Pleasure's all mine.
have a good weekend. Day. It's Tuesday.
That's right. See?
Have a good night.
You fooled yourself too, right?